Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we sat down with Arthur Herman, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute and Director of the Quantum Alliance Initiative. He sheds light on the innovation race between the U.S. and China, the ongoing microchip wars, and where our data is actually going. Arthur, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
It's great to be back.
So I want to begin with Chinese leader Xi Jinping securing his third term after their 20th Party Congress, the biggest political event in China. So after this, how do you see innovation between the U.S. and China changing, or will it change?
Well, I think what you're going to see is probably a much chillier atmosphere in terms of U.S.-China cooperation on a range of technologies, but also scientific cooperation as well. I think it's a chill that we've been waiting for. Some of us have been advocating from our end. But I think you're also going to see now Xi Jinping also being very reluctant and moving away from depending on non-Chinese sources and non-Chinese companies for the kinds of technologies that he sees as being part of, you know, of China becoming the global hegemon. In other words, much more of a homegrown industries, homegrown technologies, and innovation within one country approach to this. But it's going to be challenging, I think, Tiffany, because of the way in which you saw him talking about where China is going and where he wants to take the CCP and its relation with China society and economy as a whole. And that is that he seems to be much keener on the idea that we've got to get back to our socialist communist roots. That, in other words, the very trend which has been so important to the growth of China's affluence, its integration into the world economy, namely its embrace of capitalism, right? Its ability to operate in a free market global system, even if only tactical, but it has been a huge part of what it is that it's made China into, you know, the economic juggernaut it is. On the cusp, it seems, of becoming the largest economy in the world. And what you saw in that vivid and chilling video clip of his predecessor being marched off the stage, out of the building like that. His predecessor was the one who really saw the importance of private entrepreneurs, of the private sector in China, the non-state-owned entities and corporations, that this should be the driving engine of China's growth, both as a world power, but also for China's own prosperity and raising of standard of living. So it almost was, I think it was sending a very chilling signal that the days of freewheeling or relatively freewheeling Chinese private entrepreneurs, the Jack Ma's and the bold innovators within China who've developed some very impressive companies and technologies here, that they are now going to be carefully reined in, that they're going to have to really follow the dictates of Chairman Xi and of the Communist Party. And that, I don't think, bodes well, really, for China's long-term future.
And on that note, Arthur, it does seem that China's economy lately hasn't been going very well. There's the real estate crisis. There's, the zero COVID policies, which is hitting our manufacturing lines. Like Apple iPhones are now, a lot of them being manufactured in India. So with our international economies so intertwined, how do you see China's push away from the economic focus impacting us?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think these are bumps in the road for sure for China and for Xi Jinping's great plans for where China's going to go. The whole, upsurgence of COVID and the lockdowns, all this is not good. It's not good for China's future. It's not good for building a strong support and loyalty to what Xi Jinping's trying to accomplish there. But at the same time, I'm not someone who's really swayed by those who talk about, the coming collapse of China, or that these are, these are administering mortal wounds to China's economy, or even to Xi Jinping's regime. But they are cracks in the system, which he is going to have to fix. And what I think the Chinese should worry about is that the fix is going to be more coercion, the use of more force, and more dictates from the Central Committee and from the dictates of Chairman Xi, and the way in which he wants China to go, according to his plans, not those of the Chinese people.
And Arthur, given these cracks in the system, it seems there's almost an opportunity for many countries, including America, to really move their supply chains out of China. Do you see that happening? And if so, what can we do?
I think you're absolutely right. And as you mentioned, the fact that Apple is moving some of its assembly of his iPhones to India, maybe they won't come back. Maybe that's an opportunity now to find a different place in which to offshore Apple's assembly of iPhones in ways that it will run less political risk, and also less of a risk to us as a country of having, major parts of our industry, of our leading companies, in the grip of Chinese authorities, and even being obedient and compliant to the requirements of the Chinese Communist Party and its military and intelligence services. As you know, Apple has been one of the companies that has been carefully kowtowing to those dictates up until now. But now maybe they're beginning to realize, and others like Foxconn, that maybe having factories in China and doing all that kind of work there, you could actually find workers who you could pay less, but who will be more reliable, and a government who will be more cooperative in the future. That's what we're hoping will happen from this whole COVID upsurgence episode in China right now.
And Arthur, you mentioned earlier how with this kind of chilling atmosphere in China, it could actually impact Xi Jinping's own goals for the country, right? And it seems on the U.S. side of things, President Biden recently cut off China's access to high-end advanced semiconductor or microchips, which are used in a lot of things. So how do you see this playing out between the two countries especially?
Well, I think the Biden administration is now getting the message, and that is that in dealing with China, that it's important to realize that we need to decouple not just our dependence on China, but also China's dependence on us. Because the more technology that they take, the more technology they acquire from us, simply goes to build their national power and military power in ways that are entirely antagonistic and antithetical to our interests here. That international, the international economic cooperation and technology cooperation with China isn't leading us to a point of convergence, of finding shared interests. It's having the opposite effect. And that the more that interdependence is turning out to be a tool by which those who are bold enough and strong enough to use and manipulate that relationship to their national advantage in ways that are really injurious to the interest, not just of the United States, but I would say of our allies and of the cause of freedom everywhere. And I think the Biden administration is beginning to realize that. The Trump administration really kind of pioneered this approach in dealing with Huawei, but saying, you know what, we're not only not going to buy Huawei equipment anymore, but we're also going to deny Huawei, the telecom giant, we're going to deny them access to our technologies that make them stronger, that make them such an important pillar of China's goal of becoming, a global hegemon, replacing the United States. Now the Biden administration is beginning to take the lesson from The Trump administration, what we were trying to do there is now applying it to first to semiconductors and semiconductor technology, not just their access to that to the microchips themselves, but also to the technology, even Americans working in those factories and in those facilities, that we're bringing a stop to that process. But now also, as I mentioned in my Forbes column, that there's now talk about expanding that ban, expanding that decoupling to artificial intelligence technology, as well as to quantum computing. These are all important steps, I think, in my opinion, important steps for making sure that what we do, our innovations, our productivity, and so on, isn't being used to enhance not China's quality of life. We're talking about enhancing China's power in ways that are a direct threat to us and to our allies. That's the awakening that has now, I think, reached the Biden administration that we're seeing played out in interesting and I think very constructive ways.
That was Arthur Herman, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute and Director of the Quantum Alliance Initiative. And for those watching our full episode, after a break, we continue our coverage with him on what the microchip wars mean for our national security and what steps we should take now. Our full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.